Hello, everybody. Hope your Friday evening is off to a good start and the weekend gets rolling. It's More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Well, Monday at noon, the NFL's legal tampering begins. That means the teams can talk to the agents of unrestricted free agents, and then they can eventually agree to terms and sign them once the new league year starts. It figures to be a very busy time for the Browns. Christian Kirksey let go. The Browns will also allow Joe Schobert probably to walk away and get a big money deal. So the need is there for not only offensive linemen, but also linebackers. Let's welcome in cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises. Doug, free agency gets underway with being able to negotiate Monday at noon. What do you expect the Browns to do? Do you expect them to be big players? What would you address as far as this team needs? There are some significant needs now.
Well, we could all see this coming a year ago, right? And I think when you watched John Dorsey in the draft last year, the Browns want to get to a point where you're not drafting on desperation, you're not drafting on need, you're drafting for the future, right? So I thought, three of the most important picks last year were Sione Takitaki, Mac Wilson, and Sheldrick Redwine, because you could see, okay, well, a year from now, if Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert and Demarius Randall are gone, you are hopefully drafting their cheaper, young replacement. So I still kind of wish Joe Schobert was going to be a Brown, and by every report, obviously, he's not going to be. But I don't know that you go into free agency, for instance, desperate at linebacker, because I think you kind of hope you have your two main guys. And if in a world where, lots of the time you're only playing two linebackers, you planned for this. Wilson and Takitaki, I think, should be your guys. So I don't think they should be desperate at linebacker. I don't think they have to, for instance, throw a lot of money. They don't want to pay Joe Schobert. Don't then give some other linebacker that money. If you want to have reasonable depth and that kind of thing, I do think safety. I don't think Redwine's as far along, and I just think, they have some guys on the roster that could fill some spots, but I think there's more question at safety. Randall's not going to be back. A big money safety, I think, it makes a lot more sense, and there's a lot of names that people are throwing out there. But while I agree, yes, you can see holes, what a good team does is starts to fill the holes before the holes are there. So, for instance, that's what should be happening at linebacker. And so I don't think they should be desperate. They should be smart, but hopefully their two starting linebackers are already here.
Takitaki couldn't get on the field with the defense very much. Now, Mac Wilson had some bright spots, had some disappointing spots. Are you concerned at all just at the lack of playing time? And that's what would concern me about Takitaki. He really hadn't been through it.
Yeah, and it's hard. You would have liked to see him on the field more. He had some injury things here and there, I think, last year, right? So, I think you've got to throw in your lot, though, right? I mean, they do have some money to spend. But again, if you want to throw big money at a linebacker, I got one to throw money at. His name's Joe Schobert. So if you don't want to pay him $10 million, then don't go pay somebody who's not as good $8 million. That's the thing that I expect Andrew Berry and this new front office to be very strategic. And sometimes strategic can be frustrating for fans because it means not splashy. It means, you don't go out and get a Sheldon Richardson kind of thing, right? You may not go that big and that bold, but if they can spread the money out a little bit, rely on some of the young guys, I don't know. I think safety is a spot where you could do something fairly big, but I don't know that that they're going to be throwing money around.
Let me throw you some names of top linebackers. Corey Littleton from the Rams, Devondre Campbell from the Falcons, Blake Martinez, Packers, Jamie Collins from the Patriots. We've seen that movie before, and Danny Trevathan from the Bears. You like any of them? Are you saying we'll see? Maybe go down to that next tier. What are your thoughts?
I like. There's a guy. What's his name? Oh, Joe Schobert. I like Joe Schobert. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about linebackers on other. I think you have to believe, even though it wasn't Andrew Berry's draft, right? on some level, good teams believe in their own guys, plan for the future, find smart, equitable deals in free agency. And if your desperation is not your friend. And so I think, yes, they do have some money, but maybe I'm naive. Maybe you're right about Taki Taki. Hey, this guy didn't get on the field much last year, but I would like to believe in some planning, in some faith in your own roster, and that when you go to free agency, you're being very strategic. A guy here who can absolutely make a huge difference, and then smart money filling out the roster underneath it. I know part of the analytics strategy is don't pay for depth, right? So you don't want to overpay for some of these guys. You want to build some of your own depth with your young guys. But it's just an interesting cycle. They drafted Joe Schobert. They drafted Christian Kirksey. Both those guys were mid-round picks and did everything you would want them to do. And because they were good, they've now priced themselves out of Cleveland at that position. The Browns don't want to pay that money at that position. So please don't go start throwing it willy-nilly at somebody else that you don't know as much about. And I really would be surprised at that position if they do that. I think it'll be lower contracts, maybe looking for depth, and hopefully believing in Wilson and Taki Taki and the guys you had.
Well, obviously, offensive line, they likely need 3 starters. I don't think you want 3 young, untested guys. Let me run some names by you free agent-wise. Jack Conklin, Titans. Anthony Costanzo, Colts. Brandon Schreff, Skins. Jason Peters, a little older, Eagles. Brian Balaga, Packers. Joe Tooney, Patriots. There's also the Trent Williams thing, but Williams has come out and said he wants $20 million a year, and you'd have to give up something to get him in a trade.
No, and I think our Mary Kay Cabot at cleveland.com has reported that is part of the plan, is they're saving some money in some other spots to try to spend it on the offensive line. I think you're going to solve certainly one starting spot in the draft. I understand not having the plan B. Let's draft 3 starting offensive linemen. Conklin makes me nervous a little bit, but again, this is the kind of thing. I might be contradicting myself now. John Dorsey signed Chris Hubbard when Chris Hubbard was basically the 6th offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was forced to start by an injury, was pretty good. But you're signing a guy who was kind of like the 6th lineman on a good team to be a starting tackle for you, and they gave him pretty good money, and he wasn't good enough. So I think offensive line is an opportunity where I do think, for instance, Jason Peters to come in absolutely established, short-term solution for a year or 2, but they are trying to win now. This is a winning window for the Browns. I think that kind of thing makes sense. You put him at one tackle spot, lock it down. Maybe you draft the other tackle. Again, it's hard. They had a really good guard here they were paying money to in Kevin Zeitler, and they decided to trade him away. But I think that is a spot where if you told me they went and got him, one huge name offensive lineman in free agency and another really solid guy, and then drafted, 2 offensive linemen early, but are only counting on one of them to start. I think that sounds like a great plan. Again, I'm not going to pretend I know whether it should be Anthony Costanzo or somebody else, but go get a veteran tackle. I may be more on a short-term deal. Jack Conklin makes me a little nervous because I think he's good, but because he's the best offensive lineman available, he might get money like he's great. So that makes me nervous a little bit. But Jason Peters, get him here tomorrow.
You also mentioned, Schobert, Kirksey, how they priced themselves out of the Browns' thought. Is it important for the Browns to go out and try to sign a guy like Myles Garrett early? Some of the national guys have said that. The problem is you let Schobert get to the point where his production outmatched what you wanted to pay him. If you'd have extended him a little bit earlier before you were up against it, you might have been able to strike a better deal.
And Andrew Berry said that at the Combine when we talked to him. That is part of his strategy. We've seen, small market baseball teams do that kind of thing sometimes of let's get, and you see, Major League Baseball, the White Sox are signing every guy who's 20 to a 6-year deal. They're trying to lock guys up long term. I think maybe, if Andrew Berry was the GM a year ago, they might have gotten Joe Schobert done. Now, that's easier said than done with a guy like Myles Garrett. I think what Andrew Berry is talking about is these middle of the road, good but not great. free agents, right? The guys that we believe in, but we'll try to get Schobert locked in at 8.5 because we don't want him to try to get to the open market where he's going to demand 10. Myles Garrett is a priority. Again, assuming Baker Mayfield is the guy, and I'm going to keep assuming that. Next to Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett is the next biggest priority on this roster. But when you're good, you have tough decisions. I hope their tough decisions include, finding ways to keep Myles Garrett. And again, as much as I want to keep Joe Schobert, not keeping Joe Schobert, that's a little bit of money that you can put towards Myles Garrett when it's time. So I would expect Andrew Berry, with their own guys that they like, to prioritize trying to get them done early. But ask the Indians how that's going with Francisco Lindor. Myles Garrett, when you are a premium dude at a premium position, you might not be able to do that. What I think Berry's going to do down the line, Schobert's the perfect example. Good player, not fantastic player, but good player and not at a premium position. Let's get that guy done. Whether you really can get Myles Garrett to sign before he gets to the open market, who knows?
All right, we're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Doug will join us back on the other side. We've talked free agents. When we return, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL draft, take a look at some mock drafts, who some of the national people think the Browns may have available and may go get at 10. More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon, talking Browns. We talked a little bit about free agency as Browns can negotiate with the agents of those unrestricted free agents beginning at noon on Monday. The other piece of the puzzle to improve the roster is obviously the NFL draft. Let's take a look at how some of the quote-unquote draft experts view the first 10 picks or so in this draft. Sports Illustrated, the consensus number 1 and 2 pretty much, although there is a slight twist to that, would be Burrow 1, Chase Young 2. So now a panel of experts from Sports Illustrated has Okudah going 3. The Giants taking Tristan Wirfs, one of the guys the Browns are obviously looking at. A couple of quarterbacks. Jedrick Wills going off the board at 8 to the Cardinals. Isaiah Simmons right before the Browns, and then the Browns getting Andrew Thomas from Georgia, younger guy that they view as potentially a plug-and-play left tackle. Some of the experts do, at least. Let's take a look at Charles Davis, NFL.com. This is the one that's a little different. He has Tua going to the Redskins, Young going to the Lions. The Giants taking Becton, another big guy. The quarterback coming off the board. Andrew Thomas going 6, Wirfs 8. Isaiah Simmons right before the Browns pick at 9, and then the Browns taking Jedrick Wills from Alabama, and Okudah slipping all the way, cornerback from Ohio State slipping all the way to 11. A lot of people have him going 3. And then the final one, Pete Prisco, CBS. He's got Derek Brown, offensive lineman, going for the Lions. Andrew Thomas going all the way at 4. 3 quarterbacks in a row. Okudah going 8 to the Cardinals. The Browns taking Becton with both Wirfs and Isaiah Simmons still on the board. Let's welcome back in cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises. Doug, you have said all along, tackle, offensive lineman. If a talent like Isaiah Simmons, who ran and showed all the freakishly talented athletic skills in addition to being one of those linebacker safety hybrids, if he's sitting there at 10 and you have gotten a veteran tackle, are you at least tempted to take a guy with that kind of skill? Some say he is the best football player in that draft.
So let's save this clip. If Isaiah Simmons lasts until 10, I will give $100 the next time I'm on after the draft. I'll show the check to your favorite charity, Dave. You just said some people think he's the best player in the draft. What if he's there at 10? He's not going to be there at 10. He's not. There is no. I am not having what if Isaiah Simmons is there at 10 conversation. I think I said this before. It's like, wow, Isaiah Simmons. He's a cornerback, a safety, and a linebacker. He can play 3 different positions. We've never seen anything like him in the NFL. You think 9 teams are going to pass on him? So, I will write the check with joy. So if he's there, I don't know, probably maybe don't pass on him. They got to take a tackle. And I think the thing that's interesting in all that is, I think it's possible with quarterback runs and teams trading up. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Browns pick with every tackle on the board, that no tackles go in the top 9. I think they also could be picking the 4th tackle at 10 and have 3 guys go above them. And then I think the thing that becomes interesting is, I'm going to imagine they have their guy, right? I would be surprised if it's Becton. Maybe it's Wirfs, maybe it's Thomas, maybe it's Wills. I'm going to guess that they're going to have a list, but I bet they'll have the guy. And if their tackle they like the best is gone at 10, then I would not be shocked if they think, well, then we have a group of 5 or 6 tackles that we think are kind of the same, where maybe they trade back and then they end up taking their tackle at 16, Ezra Cleveland or somebody like that. It's a good deep tackle class, and I think people hate the idea of trading back. That would be a smart move. You know, they don't have a lot of extra stuff right now. John Dorsey got him the extra 3rd from the Duke Johnson trade, but if you can get, you move back 6 picks in the first round and get an extra 2nd round pick or something like that, depending how the tackles fall, I definitely am thinking that could be possible.
And, you mentioned the combine, and when we were there, you kind of get the idea that of those 4 guys, it's kind of, one of those beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The guy that the Browns like might not necessarily be the guy that the Cardinals or the Giants like, because each of them have some things that are freakishly talented. I mean, Becton is just a big guy that can run. Wirfs has a ridiculous vertical leap. They say Thomas may be the best technical guy, and he's young. I mean, each of them has parts that would be really good in a specific offense.
Yeah, and I think to me the thing, and maybe, I don't know how to, Andrew Berry hasn't told me what he's. I would want a guy, I don't want necessarily the highest potential or the highest ceiling. I want the guy ready to play. I want the guy who, when he's out there as a starting tackle in week 1, I am confident can protect Baker Mayfield. So I'd rather take a lower ceiling and more of a sure thing. And maybe a guy like Andrew Thomas is that. I think Wirfs could be that. Becton is such a physical specimen, and I know he's also very proficient. I just wonder about that as a fit for the Browns with the offense they're going to run and what they need right now. And Wills, Wills plays at Alabama. I mean, everybody at Alabama is ready to play. So, I think they're going to get a guy, whoever they pick in the first round, and I'm certain it'll be a tackle, is going to start week 1. So you just want him 100% ready to go. You can't have Joe Thomas be the threshold, but you want someone who is 100% competent from the start. So again, if your favorite guy, again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, whatever you think, who the most beautiful one is, if he's not there, Antoine Jackson from USC, I think, is like a really competent veteran tackle. And maybe he doesn't deserve to go at 10, but I think you're going to have options there. And so I think it could go a variety of ways, but there's so many options. It has to be a tackle, whichever one it is.
You mentioned trading back. Would you be opposed if they absolutely think this guy is, and you don't want to say it, but this guy's the next Joe Thomas. He's going to be our starting left tackle, and they got to give up, say, a 4th-round pick to move up a couple of spots. How would you feel about that?
It doesn't feel like what these guys would do. It's hard. Denzel Ward, right? Denzel Ward played pretty well for the Browns. I still think you had an opportunity rather than drafting Denzel Ward 4th, trade back, get an extra 1st-round pick, and maybe get Ward anyway. It's hard because people like the player. But there's a risk in every player. And then the more, I don't want to give an analytic speech about you take more opportunities, you increase your chance of getting right. I would be shocked. To me, it's more like we have our guy, and if he gets to 10, we'll take him. And if he doesn't get to 10, we'll try to trade back and get somebody else from the group that we like. The idea of we have our guy, and now we're going to give up stuff to go up to 7 or 8 to make sure we get him. I just don't think that's how. I would be surprised if that's how these guys operate.
All right. Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, we'll talk Ohio State Buckeyes, both some of the guys that are in this draft and also what the Buckeyes are doing now that the spring game and spring practices have been canceled because of concerns with the coronavirus and the spread. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. More sports. And Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition, will continue with Doug Lesmerises after this timeout.
Celebrate Nature Stone's 30-year anniversary with a free Nature Stone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Nature Stone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. They're just coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We've talked quite a bit about the Browns. We're going to shift the focus just a little bit, talk a little bit about Ohio State football. We'll welcome back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. Doug, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah in the draft. They're projected to go really high. Would you be surprised if Okudah fell much below that 4 or 5 spot? You've talked about how good you think he is and how good you think he will be as a pro a number of times.
So, again, Denzel Ward went 4, right? Marshawn Lattimore out of Ohio State went 11 in that draft, the New Orleans Saints, and was the defensive rookie of the year. That's what we're talking about with Okudah. So if you want to pass on Jeff Okudah, go ahead. he's as good of a corner as I've seen out of Ohio State. He's bigger than Ward. He's not as fast as either Lattimore or Ward, but I think he's more physical. He's a great tackler. He's everything you want in an NFL corner. And so, again, there can be a run, right? I mean, if teams are getting antsy about Justin Herbert and Jordan Love, and Tua's obviously going to go in the top 10, there's so many good tackles, but corner is a premium position. So, people forever have mocked Okudah to the Lions at 3. If Tua, it's interesting. Okudah is influenced so much by Chase Young, because Okudah is not going ahead of Chase Young. So if Chase Young falls a spot, most early mocks had Chase Young 2 to the Redskins, Okudah 3 to the Detroit Lions. The Redskins seem to be making a decision, and it's all Ohio State related. Joe Burrow, the former Ohio State quarterback, is going to go number 1. The Redskins have Dwayne Haskins, the Ohio State quarterback who beat out Joe Burrow, which caused his transfer. But if the Redskins don't believe in Dwayne Haskins, who they drafted 15 last year, then they'll take Tua, which will knock down Ohio State defensive end Chase Young, which will knock down Ohio State quarterback Jeff Okudah. So the whole top of the draft is about Ohio State. But in the end, there's some teams in there that have quarterback need, that have offensive tackle needs. So maybe that pushes Okudah down. But I'm telling you, man, this guy is a top 10 player, no doubt about it. So, again, I would be shocked if he falls as far as, for instance, the Browns at 10.
And you mentioned all that talent from Ohio State that's in the draft. What do they have coming back? And how much does, the lack of the ability to do things on the football field because of the concern with the coronavirus shutting everything down, how much does that, hamper what they needed to get done in spring?
Okay. So to be clear on something, as we sit here reporting this on Friday morning, spring practice is still on for Ohio State at the moment. They have not canceled practices. They have canceled the spring game that was scheduled for April 11th. They have canceled all recruiting activities. They're not going to have any official visits or anything like that. No high school players coming in until mid-April. No Ohio State coaches on the road until mid-April. The Big Ten has canceled all competition for all spring sports. So baseball, softball, all those kind of things are canceled. At the moment, the football team practicing, as far as we know, and they've been telling us it could change any minute, is still on. So we don't know what they're going to miss in practice. But in the end, it might be on different timetables, but everyone's going to end up doing the same thing. Either teams are going to practice in the spring or they're not. So the effect that it would have is, again, a small potatoes, compared to what's going on in the rest of the world. That's obvious. But, some of the young guys would be a little behind in August, but I don't think it would have, any major effect on what Ohio State or anybody else does, because, these are 15 practices in the spring. You have this whole break in the summer where you can't practice as a team. You're lifting weights, you're working out on your own, but you can't work out with coaches. So it really is that August is sort of a continuation of spring, and Ryan Day has talked about that. But August is also a reset because half the freshmen aren't here yet anyway. So in the end, I don't think if they don't practice this spring, I don't really think it would have much of a net effect on any team. And Ohio State would basically enter preseason the same as they would.
Who are some of the young guys to keep an eye on that you think could really step into roles as major players for the Buckeyes?
So obviously, I think there's 2 real places to focus. One obviously is at receiver, where they have this 4-player freshman receiver class: Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith-Njigba, G. Scott, and Mookie Cooper, and they all could have influence. A couple of those guys are going to start. Julian Fleming, the number 1 receiver recruit in the country, is going to play. So that is going to be huge. They lost 3 senior receivers: Austin Mack, Ben Victor, and KJ Hill. KJ Hill, the all-time leading receiver in Ohio State history. They're going to be more dynamic at receiver. They're younger, but they're more explosive. Garrett Wilson, as a sophomore, is moving to the slot. I'm super excited about that. They're going to be really playmaking at the receiver position. And then I think the other really interesting one is Paris Johnson. He's a 5-star recruit from Cincinnati. He's an offensive tackle. He's in the fight at right tackle to start. You don't normally start true freshmen on the offensive line at a place like Ohio State, but every now and then a guy comes along and says, well, I don't care what year this guy is. He's got to play. Orlando Pace did that at Ohio State. Now, that's not I just did it. But no freshman should be compared to Orlando Pace. But Paris Johnson is really skilled. He's really tough. He's really smart. He's really big. Came from a big program. He knows how to play. And if Paris Johnson ends up winning the starting right tackle job, it will be because he's awesome, because they have other good options there. And if he does enough to win it, it's because he's pancaking people. So if Paris Johnson, as a true freshman, is on the field at right tackle, it's because he demanded.
So, Doug, running back, who are some names to keep an eye on or an ear out for running backs?
Like everybody and nobody, they're going to have a drop-off from J.K. Dobbins. Can't expect that level of play at running back in 2020 for Ohio State. Master Teague was third-team All-Big Ten as a backup to Dobbins last year, but he was injured in the spring, is out for spring football at the very least. Sounds like maybe he'll be back for the season, but I think there's even some questions about Master Teague, even if healthy, and then he got hurt. Marcus Crowley's a guy, a Florida recruit they really like. He's hurt. So they only have one scholarship running back healthy for spring, and then they have a guy named Mayan Williams who was kind of a late flip for them. He was going to go to Iowa State, and he got flipped by Ohio State, so he was not the number one back on their board. There's a lot of questions. DeMario McCall, Northeast Ohio kid, maybe in the mix, but he's been around for a while, and he's been like kind of back and forth between receiver and running back. That may be the number one thing they've got to work out in August. They have options. I think Marcus Crowley could be good. I think maybe they could share it, but this is going to be a team that's going to rely on Justin Fields throwing it, Justin Fields running it, and they will not be as dynamic at running back in 2020 as they were in 2019.
As always, Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. We appreciate all the insight on the Browns and the Buckeyes. You can read them in the pages of the Plain Dealer. You can also check them out here on cleveland.com. Doug Lesmerises, columnist. Time for us to step aside, take one more time out. More sports than Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back here on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We're just about out of time, but want to tell you, legalized sports wagering a little bit over an hour away from downtown Cleveland, right off of I-90, Presque Isle, Downs and Casino in Erie, Pennsylvania. 50 state-of-the-art Bet America sports betting kiosks, touchscreen. You put your money in, touch a couple of buttons, you're good to go. You get your betting slip and you can go. Again, Presque Isle, Downs and Casino, legalized sports wagering, just a little bit over an hour away from downtown Cleveland, right off of I-90 in Erie, Pennsylvania. That'll do it for us on this edition of More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Want to remind you, Les Levine will be back in the chair Monday night from 6 to 7 right here on cleveland.com. We'll see you again next weekend. Stay safe and have a great week, everyone.